We are counting down the 8 champagne brands sold in Australia that you will want to avoid, ranked from the least documented risks to the most misleading names on the shelf. From labels that hide behind obscurity to big brands that fail to deliver on their premium promises, these bottles expose how price and packaging can trick even a savvy shopper. Which brand tops the list for disappointment? Let us begin with number 8. Trilogy by Dodon sits quietly on the lower shelves, tucked among bottles with far bigger reputations. Most shoppers have never heard of it, and there is a reason for that. Reliable reviews are almost impossible to find. Critics rarely mention it, and when they do, the notes swing wildly from one vintage to the next. Some buyers on wine forums complain about bottles that taste flat or oddly sweet, while others report a decent pour, but never more than that. No major retailer lists consistent scores, and even basic details like grape sourcing or production method are left vague. With so little information available, picking up a bottle becomes pure guesswork. When a sparkling wine is this unpredictable and yet priced close to genuine champagne, the risk simply outweighs the reward. In a crowded market, transparency matters. If you can't find a clear track record, it is safer to look elsewhere. Grant Burge is a name most wine lovers know, especially for bold Barossa reds. But when it comes to sparkling, reputation does not always travel well. The Barossa Valley's warm days produce powerful Shiraz and Cabernet, not the crisp, high-acid base wines that sparkling styles demand. Grant Burge's sparkling range often feels like an afterthought, a nod to market demand, rather than a passion project. Critics rarely get excited, calling these bubblies bland and forgettable compared to what is coming out of Tasmania or the Yarra Valley at a similar price. The method used is usually the transfer process, designed for efficiency on a large scale, but it rarely delivers the fine bead or layered flavors that set great sparkling apart. For around the same money, bottles from cooler regions consistently score higher and get better reviews. Just because a label is famous for one thing does not mean every bottle deserves a spot at the party. Sometimes, brand power is just a distraction from what is actually in the glass. Seppelt's roots stretch back to the 1850s, a name woven into the story of Australian wine. For generations, that legacy has been stamped onto labels, promising a taste of history in every bottle. But today, the Seppelt Original Sparkling pours from production lines that serve weddings, corporate parties, and stadium events, not just family tables. The wine itself is built for scale. Tens of thousands of bottles made each year, using the transfer method for efficiency and consistency. Critics describe it as straightforward, with little to set one year apart from the next. The bubbles are brisk, but rarely linger, and the flavor profile stays firmly in the middle of the road. For anyone expecting the depth of a boutique Méthode Traditionnelle, the experience can feel flat. The heritage branding suggests something special, but in reality, the bottle delivers a functional, everyday fizz. When history is used as a shortcut to trust, what is in the glass does not always live up to the legend. Lindauer lines up on Australian shelves with bright labels and a name that sounds like it belongs at a celebration. The bottle hints at something special, promising a taste of New Zealand's cool vineyards. But under the surface, the story is more about efficiency than artistry. Most Lindauer cuvées are made using the Charmat or tank method, where bubbles are produced in large pressurized vats instead of individual bottles. This shortcut speeds up production and keeps costs low, but it comes at a price. The bubbles tend to be larger and rougher, fizzing up quickly and fading just as fast. Critics often call the texture coarse, with a profile that leans hard on simple fruit, missing the delicate bead and layered flavors found in traditional bottle-fermented sparkling wines. For parties and casual gatherings, Lindauer is an easy pick, affordable, approachable, and always available. But for anyone chasing that fine, persistent mousse and a sense of place in the glass, the tank method leaves the experience feeling flat. Sometimes what is easy to drink is not always worth the celebration. Jantz Tasmania carries the kind of reputation that makes people reach for a bottle with high hopes. The Pipers River region is famous for its cool climate, exactly the conditions that winemakers chase when aiming for great sparkling wine. On paper, the entry-level Jantz ticks all the right boxes: Méthode Traditionnelle, Tasmanian fruit, and a price tag that nudges it into premium territory. But when the cork comes out, expectations often clash with reality. Critics describe the basic cuvée as pleasant, but lacking the depth and complexity that the region promises. For the money, the wine feels thin, with a flavor profile that fades quickly instead of building layers. Meanwhile, the higher tiers from Jantz regularly pull in scores above 90 and show off the creamy texture and fine mousse that Tasmania is known for. The gap between the entry level and the premium bottlings is wide enough that the brand's own reputation can work against it. In this case, the region's halo effect does not guarantee greatness. Sometimes paying extra only gets you the name, not the experience. Chandon Australia walks into the room with the kind of swagger only a famous name can buy. The label reads like a passport stamp from Champagne itself, thanks to Moet Hennessy's backing and decades of French heritage. Since 1986, the Yarra Valley Outpost has produced sparkling wine using the Méthode Traditionnelle. On paper, it sounds like a ticket to luxury, especially at the price. But when the cork is popped on the entry-level cuvée, reality sets in. Critics point to a shallow mid-palate and a finish that slips away before it has had a chance to make an impression. The wine spends less time on lees than its French cousins, which means it misses out on the creamy, bready notes that define true champagne. Instead, what is in the glass feels polished but thin, more about the story than the substance. Buyers pay a premium for the Moet connection, but the experience does not match the expectation. For those drawn in by the promise of French glamour, the entry-level Chandon delivers a lesson in marketing. Sometimes, the label outshines the liquid inside. Jacob's Creek Sparkling is a fixture in almost every bottle shop across Australia. Its familiar label promising a safe bet for any celebration. Behind the scenes, the numbers are staggering. Millions of bottles roll out of South Australia each year, making it one of the country's most widely distributed sparkling wines. But when it comes to what actually lands in the glass, the experience rarely lives up to the scale. Critics point to a mousse that disappears almost as soon as the wine is poured. The bubbles rise quickly, fizzing with energy at first, but within minutes, the glass sits nearly flat, missing the lively persistence that marks a quality sparkling. That fleeting effervescence is not just a minor flaw, it is a direct clue to how the wine is made. Mass production at this scale often relies on methods that prioritize speed and consistency over finesse, sacrificing the fine bead and lasting mousse that make a sparkling wine memorable. The palate follows suit, with a flavor profile described as bland and one-dimensional, offering little more than a quick, fruit-forward hit before fading away. For a brand so deeply woven into Australian wine culture, Jacob's Creek Sparkling is a lesson in how volume can crowd out character. If you want a sparkling that holds its bubbles and keeps the party going in your glass, it pays to look beyond the most familiar names. Yellow Glen is the master of the bubbly Isle masquerade. Gold foil wraps the neck, and confetti-bright labels promise celebration. Shelf placement puts it shoulder to shoulder with genuine champagne. For a casual shopper, it looks like a ticket to luxury without the price tag. But the real story is poured into the glass. Critics have called out Yellow Glen for its high sugar, describing a sweetness that lingers long after the bubbles have faded. The finish is cloying, more like a lolly than a crisp aperitif. That sugary edge is not just a tasting note, it is a sales strategy. Event planners and party hosts grab Yellowglen by the case, drawn in by the festive packaging and approachable price. It is a bottle designed to look the part on a wedding table or in a New Year's toast photo, but rarely is it served straight for the taste. Most bartenders reach for Yellowglen when mixing spritzes or fruity cocktails, where the sweetness gets buried under juice and ice. For anyone hoping for the dry, complex character of true champagne, the letdown is immediate. Packaging and price do the heavy lifting, but what is inside the bottle is all about volume, not finesse. When a sparkling wine is built for the party aisle, do not expect it to deliver anything more than a sugar rush in a shiny suit. Across all 8 entries, one pattern stands out. Branding and shelf placement often blur the line between true champagne and ordinary sparkling. In Australia, price and prestige don't guarantee quality, authenticity does. For savvy drinkers, knowing the difference is the real key to celebrating well. Cheers for watching.